This week, the Nightfall in Destiny 2 is dropping double rewards. This is a really effective time to farm upgrade materials, so I highly recommend you get 2 friends together or 2 fools you can tolerate and get farming because it's extremely worthwhile for your time investment. Every time you complete the Nightfall having killed all champions, you'll get double the normal rewards you'd normally get. So if the game is like, hey, this time this guy deserves an Ascended Shard for finishing the Nightfall, you'll actually get 2. And that applies to enhancement prisms, exotics, and the new Nightfall exclusive reward Shadow Price. So it's well worth it. I'm quickly approaching max stacks of prisms and shards, which is awesome. So if you're a newer player or you're just coming back to Destiny after hearing this exciting news that sunsetting is going away, among many other exciting things, you might be wondering what's best for Nightfalls these days. Well, if you have every exotic in the game and an experienced team, you're going to be fine no matter what you do. But if you're a bit newer to the game or you came back to discover a lot of your old loot was sunset or is not as effective anymore, you might be struggling to find a powerful loadout. But don't worry, I got you covered. I teamed up with my friends Ben and Bill, and we did the 1330 power version of this week's Nightfall using only accessible gear. This means we didn't use any raid exotics, any stasis, any specialized mods, or just in general anything that's hard to get. With these builds, we felt really confident that whether you're new or just coming back, you'll be able to build an identical or very similar loadout to ours and get through this Nightfall pretty easily. As always, there are chapter time codes in the description, so you can go where you need to quickly. First up, my build. I was on Titan using the long shadow sniper rifle, which you can get from completing strikes or handing in Vanguard tokens to Zavala. If you don't have one, you can swap it out for the Adored sniper, which anybody can get, or you can pair it with the new SMG this season called Extraordinary Rendition, which you can farm from Umbral engrams. If you don't have Adored or you don't want to get Adored, you could just farm Far Future from Umbral engrams. I paired my long shadow with Risk Runner, which is an exotic SMG that everyone gets really early in the Destiny 2 campaign. It's extremely good for fighting Fallen because they shoot so much arc damage, so every time I get hit, I get a shield, and Risk Runner charges up for rapid sustained fire that chains between enemies. Finally, for my heavy weapon, I have Code Duello, which is the new rocket launcher this season, which you can also farm from Umbral engrams. On my helmet, nothing too fancy, just ammo finders for my special and heavy weapon, plus Powerful Friends, which is a charge with light mod. It simply means that every time I get charged, my nearby friends get charged too. Everyone has some charge with light mods to start, but if you don't have Powerful Friends, that's totally fine. On my arms, I use the seasonal artifact mod Overload SMG and anti-barrier sniper rifles, so Long Shadow can take down barrier champions and Risk Runner can stun Overload champions. My arms are the exotic Ursa Furiosa, which was just sold at S.A.B.E.R, the exotic vendor, 2 weeks ago, so I felt comfortable recommending it here. But if you don't have it, once again, this build is not going to suffer terribly. You should still be okay. Because I'm using Middle Tree Void Titan, I get to summon a big banner shield that defends my allies from incoming damage and buffs their outgoing damage, which is super useful in Nightfalls. If you have Ursa Furiosa on, for all the damage you block, you get super energy back, which makes it quicker to get your big shield again, and chains orbs to your friends so they can get supers faster too. But if you don't have Ursa, you'll still be totally fine. I also have Unprotective Light, which is another charge with light mod that simply makes me harder to kill when I'm charged with light. That's the whole thing with charge with light mods, you just need to have one mod that charges you and then other mods to give you benefits while you're charged, and that's it. Next up, my chest piece, I have Rocket Launcher Reserve so I can hold more rockets, plus solar damage resist so I take less incoming solar damage from all those Fallen with Scorch Cannons. I also have on Shield Break Charge, so every time I break an enemy's shield with a corresponding damage type, like breaking an Arc Shield with my Risk Runner, I get charged with light. On my legs, I have High Energy Fire, which is really useful. It's a charge with light mod that everyone has access to. It simply means that whenever you're charged with light, you do more damage, which is great. I also simply have on Scavengers for my special and heavy weapons. Finally, on my class item, I just have Taking Charge, a mod everyone has, so every time I pick up an Orb of Power, I get charged with light. I also have Special Finisher, so I can generate special ammo every time I do a finisher, and Perpetuation, so when I pop my Titan Barricade, I get some Barricade energy back. Those certainly aren't necessary though, they're just helpful if you have them. Now onto the Hunter build. My friend was using Bottom Tree Tether, which is really useful because you can throw your smoke bomb to go invisible and make your teammates invisible too. This super is also super useful because you can tether enemies over and over again and do big damage with that and generate a lot of orbs. He was also using Dead Man's Tail, which you get through this expansion's exotic quest. If you don't have it yet, the mission to get it is fun and easy, and I definitely recommend it. Or you can use any other scout rifle and do just fine. He was also using Salvager's Salvo, which is a grenade launcher anyone can unlock this season through a quest. If you don't have that, you could use Truth Teller here or an Orwing's Maul, which are excellent grenade launcher alternatives. If you have blinding grenades on either grenade launcher, that's especially useful. Finally, in his heavy slot, he had the new rocket launcher Code Duello, just like me. For armor, he was running ammo finders on his helmet, plus Taking Charge, and then on his arms, he was running anti-barrier scout rifle with Scout Loader and High Energy Fire, which I touched on earlier. For his chest piece, he was using the new Hunter Exotic Omnioculus, which gives you a second smoke bomb and some damage resistance while you're invisible. You can farm this in Legendary Lost Sectors, and we thought it was okay to feature this in the video because if you're a hunter doing Nightfall right now, you can definitely handle a Legendary Lost Sector, and your chances of getting this early on in your legendary Lost Sector runs are actually decently high if you don't have it yet. However, if you don't have this chest piece or you don't want to bother getting it, this build is still super effective, so you should be totally fine. For mods, he was using sniper damage resistance to resist all the far away enemies in this Nightfall. The legs are very straightforward too, he just had on rocket launcher scavenger, and for the class item, the only important thing was distribution, which gets him all abilities back faster if he dodges near enemies, which happens pretty frequently. Alright, last but not least, our resident Warlock Ben, who was using Well of Radiance, which is Middle Tree Solar Warlock. He was using Wither Horde, which is an exotic grenade launcher that a lot of people have, and an Ikelos SMG, which is great for generating Warmind cells, which you can obtain from multiple sources this season. For his heavy, he was also using Code Duello. For armor, Ben was using ammo finders for special and primary weapons, and Global Reach, which is a Warmind cell mod that everyone has access to. This simply generates Warmind cell sometimes when you kill an enemy with a Warmind weapon like Ikelos or Seven Seraph weapons. For Ben, that's his Ikelos SMG. When he shoots Warmind cell, it makes a big explosion and kills a lot of stuff, so that's great. For his arms, he was using Overload SMG to help me stun those Overload champions and the mod Taking Charge. For his chest, he was using Phoenix Protocol, which is an exotic a lot of Warlocks have, but if you don't have it, just like Ursa Furiosa, you'll be totally fine without it. The Well of Radiance is still unbelievably effective. If you do have Phoenix Protocol, you may as well throw it on. It gets you super energy back for killing enemies while standing in your Well of Radiance. And if you don't have it, you're actually still going to get your well back pretty quick because your Titan and your Hunter will be generating a lot of orbs through their supers. He also had on high energy fire, sniper resist, and concussive dampener, which reduces area of effect damage coming in from enemies. Finally, on his boots, he had grenade launcher scavenger and shield break charge, and on his class item, the only important thing here is distribution, which gets him abilities back faster when he pops his rift near enemies, which is always happening. I think it's especially important that you have a Middle Tree Solar Warlock on your team because due to the modifier attrition, you can only get health back by picking up healing orbs that enemies drop, so it's really hard to get your health back sometimes, so you're going to need those rifts and healing grenades from your Warlock. The invisibility smoke bombs that your Hunter can drop are also super important so he can make himself invisible for getting revives or making the whole fire team invisible when you're in a sticky situation. Alright, next up, here's how to go about actually playing this Nightfall. For this first area, I recommend scanning the war sat and standing on it for a little bit, and then immediately leaving and heading back to cover that's far away from the enemies that are spawning from the ship. From a distance, you should take out the turrets on the ship if you want, using snipers and scouts, not rockets. They were doing a lot of damage to us, so it felt important to get rid of the turrets. Watch out for invisible Fallen with solar guns because they can destroy you very quickly. Prioritize killing the adds that push you and of course barrier champions, and if an overload champion pushes you, prioritize killing that or just stun it to get it out of your hair while you work on something else. The objective here is not to slay out, it's just to stay alive so you don't wipe. As long as you hang back and you don't stay in the Warsat circle while enemies are spawning, you'll be totally fine. You can finish the Warsat circle scan when enemies are not around you, and if you finish it early that's fine too because it won't despawn any champions that are already spawned. For this next room, you're going to need your supers. Hang out way in the back of the room and generate a lot of orbs using your Hunter super, then your Titan super. If you're blocking damage as a Sentinel Titan using Ursa Furiosa, be sure not to stand in the Well of Radiance when you do because it can bug out the game and won't give you super energy back. Prioritize killing anti-barrier champions right away if you can, because they'll make other enemies immune. But if overload champions push you, they are of course your first priority, and you will get pushed by overloads, so watch out for those, and make sure you have plenty of people ready to stun them. Again, watch out for sneaky invisible Fallen on the sides of the room with solar damage. There are several waves of adds that spawn, so never push too far into the middle of the room and always hang out on the sides. For this long tunnel of death, we found the best way to do it was sending the Hunter down the tunnel with the ball, and he'd make himself invisible whenever possible, dropping the ball when needed to go invisible again and picking it back up. You have about 5 or 10 seconds between when you drop the ball and when it despawns, so if you need to, you can just drop it and pick it back up to focus fire on the explosive shanks. We popped a Well of Radiance right in the middle of the tunnel to make the journey easier, and the other two players prioritized shooting exploder shanks right when they spawned, then focused on the other shanks. In this next room, we hung out way in the back and prioritized the barrier champions first. If anything pushed us and it felt a little too sketchy, it's really easy to just walk back out of the room and take a breather, so we did that whenever we needed to avoid certain death. Throughout this whole Nightfall, but this room and the next in particular, you really want to make sure that you're calling out which champion your team should be fighting because there are so many of them. You'll really need everyone to focus on one champion because otherwise you're probably just going to be wasting your ammo. Also, once you take arc damage, if you're the risk runner user on your team, you should focus fire on overloads, especially if they're close to each other because you can get some really easy long sustained stuns on them for chaining arc damage between them, and that's super useful. This next room is tough, but once again, you don't actually have to even enter the room for quite some time, so absolutely prioritize the barrier champion from far away to get that down first, then work your way in, taking out smaller adds. Once you're clear, focus fire on 1 or 2 overload champions and keep the high ground. We like to hang out around this pillar up on the high ground. Use all your supers here, but try to retain a little heavy ammo because before the boss room, you can just chill in this room after you've cleared it and recharge your super, but you can't necessarily get heavy ammo back as much as you might like. Alright, last but not least is the boss room. Here you're going to want to hang out on the right side for the first 3/4 of the fight, using pillars as cover and retreating whenever you need to corners or using titan barricades or going invisible. Risk runner is super useful for chewing through all the shanks that are spawning, but honestly a great priority would be doing a lot of damage to the boss right away to get this first health bar gone so he goes away and stops sniping you from up close. His ground pound attack and his sniper rifle on his head will basically kill you in one shot even at full health or when you're in a well or a bubble, so you really can't take risks. Just get him to go away as fast as you can. However, make sure you save some rockets for the final stand because that's when you really want to finish things off quickly. After each of the boss's first 2 health bars, you're going to run into an invincibility phase where a barrier champion spawns, so you'll need to prioritize killing that champion with your team and staying alive. This is a good time for a breather in my opinion because the boss isn't chasing you down, so just use your supers, chain orbs, because every time one of you pops a super you should be generating a lot of orbs for your teammates. Finally, on the final stand the boss will switch to this aggressive melee attack phase that kills you in basically one hit at full health. So actually I really like chaos method here, where every member of your fire team is running around wildly dodging anything you can and trying to do boss damage with your rockets. What we do is put in a rocket, turn around, and then run away and reload. That way it makes us harder to hit, and if one of us dies there are likely others alive because they weren't all grouped up. If shit hits the fan, your hunter can always go invisible and just hide, but honestly this last stand part did not prove to be very hard for us because the boss wasn't shooting at us anymore. He was just running straight at us. So put in a rocket, run away, reload, and split up. You should be able to finish him. Alright, that's it for the guide. I hope this helps you out. Now is a really effective time to be doing this because upgrade materials like enhancement prisms and ascendant shards are pretty hard to come by, so I cannot recommend doing this farm enough, even if you just have time for 1 or 2 runs. It'll allow you to upgrade your armor and your weapons and make more effective builds, and now that armor isn't sunsetting anymore, you're going to have a way easier time crafting builds with tight stat spreads. I personally use Destiny Item Manager once I have a good amount of high stat armor on a character to try to find loadouts where I'm not wasting stat points and I'm hitting thresholds that I really like 100 recovery. If you have any questions at all, or you can suggest some useful builds for players who might not have a lot of gear, please drop them in the comments to help people out. I read every comment and I'll try to help out whenever I can. I also just wanted to mention, holy crap, thanks for 10,000 views on my bottom dollar video. I've never come anywhere close to that views wise, and the sub count has been increasing a lot every day too, so it's super exciting and motivating, and I can't wait to bring you more. Destiny is really fun to me, so it's fun to share stuff like this with other people. Alright, that's it. Thanks for stopping by. See you later.